Let's talk crochet. Hey folks, it's Mary, aka MercyTriumphs, and this is Slow Crochet. This is episode 081, and I just want to talk about everything that I've been crocheting this week. So, briefly, I want to say that this podcast almost did not happen this week. I am cutting it super fine. It has been a wild week in the family. I'm not going to really go into details, but I did somehow, in the midst of everything, get some crocheting done. So I'm going to try to talk about that real quick. Typically, I do not film on the same day that I try to post. So let's see, number one, how quickly I can run through this. Hope you guys are okay with my very quick jabbering. And number two, let's see if I can edit this together and get it posted in the time that I would like. So let's get into it. What did I actually finish this week? Anything that was holding over from the past weeks, and any new projects in crochet. I am going to start with a beret. And this is a basic kind of granny square beret, granny in the round. And I did use kind of two different patterns as jumping off points. One is by Little John's Yarns, and one of them is by Yarnspirations. I did not really like either one of those, so I kind of just figured it out as I went. I frogged this thing at least 3 times before I finally got it to the size and the shape that I want. It's one of those things where when you are using a particular yarn, you never know quite how it's going to perform. You never know how your tension is going to perform, no matter what that particular project may be. For a hat, it's okay. I'm always happy to frog back. That is one of the reasons that I go as slow as I do, because I have to kind of keep in mind that I might need to go back and correct. Now, this is made out of a Noro yarn. It is made out of Noro Miyabi in the colorway number 28. And it is a blend of wool and cashmere. I did have more of this left, so I decided I wanted to feature these colors in a different way, so I looked for another hat pattern, and it ended up being something that I did frog multiple times to get what I eventually did want to go with, and that is this hat. So, ooh, color work. Let me go ahead and show you the elephant in the underside, as we might say. Look at all those floats. Some of those are quite severe, right? So I'm relatively new to color work, and this was my solution. This is a pattern by Pattern Paradise. Maria Bittner is, I believe, the name of the designer. And it actually is a pattern that goes from the bottom up, and it's all front post double crochets, and then you eventually decrease up to the top. I decided, because I am me, that I would go from the top down. So I kind of reverse engineered it a little bit, trying to use the yarn that I had. So I have that Noro yarn. And then the other yarn that I used was something I pulled out of stash. It is a wool cotton blend. It's also a DK weight yarn. It is Rowan wool cotton, 50 grams. It comes in about 123 yards, and it's about a 3 weight. So this is one that I just picked up from my little yarny thrift store. And this one was the colorway, let's see. Yeah, it doesn't even say a colorway. I'm just going to go with white. But yes, that is the white that I used. And originally I did the entire top in solid color, and then I realized I wanted to go back through and add in more white because I didn't think that I would have enough of the Noro color to make it through. I did fudge a little bit. I did like a crab stitch on the bottom. But I really do love how it turned out. Now, it's a bit big on me. I think if I were to make this again, I would decrease the amount of rows at the top, just because it sits so far down, it's almost like making my glasses slide off my face. But for a first go in a colorwork hat, I think it was really effective. However, I did end before I did the ribbing rows, and so this would have been even longer. So my thought is I would like to do something like this again. I want to maybe play around with the top a little bit more. The pattern is just for the snowflakes, and it only has, I think, 3 snowflakes on the pattern itself. It doesn't have that 5th, so I was doing a little bit of math to get 5 in there. I wanted it to go all the way around. But yeah, I'm trying to think, how could I do this without that kind of spider web of floats on the inside? Maybe if I did this again, I might do like 2 different full balls of yarn that I knew I'd have more than enough for. And maybe I could actually divide out into 5 different sections and do it that way, so that I had almost like 5 bobbins of yarn to work from. That way I wouldn't have this amount of floats in between these spaces here. That's my thought. I don't know that there's any kind of rush on this. I was kind of doing this as an experiment and as a learning process, but it did end up being a good learning experience, so I'd like to replicate it. And my thought too is that this type of thing I think would be nice to feature at a county fair. Now, in Tennessee, every county is supposed to have its own county fair, but in Nashville, where I live, it's all kind of Davidson County is the same as Nashville. It just kind of, the city kind of absorbed all of the county. And so what happened was they actually moved the Tennessee State Fair from Nashville over to a different county that already had like a bigger fair. So I'm not exactly sure what fair I would go to since I live in Davidson County and like the state fair would actually be in my county. They did start a Nashville fair recently, but when I was looking at the people who won in previous years, some of them didn't even live in Davidson County. And so I'm not quite sure what the rules are or the parameters are, but I have been thinking about having a few things that I would like to at least put forward in that fair when it's time. It's not until maybe September, and just kind of push the envelope, because I feel like in a lot of ways, crochet has the reputation of being granny squares and granny squares, or maybe some amigurumi these days, but mostly it's granny squares or amigurumi kits. And I think there's actually so much more that crochet can do. And I would like to show some of that off, maybe in submitting some things to, even if it's a state fair, even if it's just the citywide fair. Nashville has grown a whole lot in the last few years. And I really do think that not just with your granny square cardigans and your Afghans, but crochet has come such a long way, and there's so much more to it than people realize. So maybe redoing a hat like this and having people stop and think, oh my goodness, you can do that in crochet, how interesting, and just kind of push people's thought process. Y'all know me, I love to make people think. Note on this real quick, I did use DK weight yarn, 3 weight yarns on these, and I used a size I. This is a USA made 55-cent size I boy hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter hook. On the other hat, on the beret, I used a size H hook, and so that is a 5.0 millimeter hook, and also that same DK weight yarn. So those are my finishes for the week. Those are my hopes for the future. Maybe I will be making another one of these soon. Who knows? All right, so things that I was working on last week that are still works in progress. Number one, let's get into this big old shawl. This is the shawl that I've been making, that I've kind of been cobbling together a couple of patterns. One of them is just a very straightforward kind of grid shawl. But the other pattern that I've been using is by Moogly. And actually I reached out to her to see if it was okay, not only to feature her design, but also to maybe do a tutorial in the future of how I tweaked her rectangle shawl into a triangle shawl. And she said that would be wonderful if I could credit her and maybe link to her blog. That would be wonderful. But anyway, it was really fun that I got the green light to do that. Should I ever find the time to make more tutorials, and if there's a desire for it. But anyway, here's where we are. Ta-da! All my shawl people. So many of y'all find me because of shawls. Well, I continue to love them. This one, it's based on the Winged Wrap or Winged Wrap by Moogly, and the basic idea is double crochets and chain stitches, and you stack those on top of each other, and then every few rows you do a series of chains and attach them in different places so that you have this beautiful kind of rhythm in the shawl. It's very simple, it's very subtle. The only thing is it gets a little weird in the middle, and that's probably because I've made this more of a shallow shawl. I haven't made it a pure right triangle, I've made it more of an obtuse triangle, which is my preference. So thus far I have about 2.5 balls of yarn on this. I am using Mainstay cotton, but comparable to this, since Walmart is no longer making Mainstay cotton, it's about 180 yards, and I think that it's almost the exact same as I Love This cotton from Hobby Lobby. So my thought on this is I'm going to finish out the 3rd ball. I do have a 4th, but we'll see how it fits after 3, and then I'll sew in my ends, and then we'll see. I might be able to do a tutorial if there's interest in that. Again, I do have permission from the designer because I don't want to do something that isn't an original design, and since this is such a heavy inspiration from her, I did double check. So that's in the clear, but y'all let me know in the comments, would you be interested in a shawl tutorial for something like this. Again, I really like the texture, but it's also still pretty loose. And because on the back you see it's just that grid. So it's very nice and open, and doing it in a cotton I think is going to be wonderful for this kind of summer season. I also really like the neutral color of it. That really makes my heart happy as well. It's going to blend with a lot of things in my wardrobe already. So work in progress there. Oh, on this one, I am using a vintage J hook. This one is either a 6 or maybe like a 6.25 millimeter. It's kind of right in the middle, one of those kind of funny ones, but a little bit of a bigger hook size for a 4-weight yarn I think just does help with the drape. And it's coming along really quickly, and I love how it's coming out. All those different practices I think are paying off on this for sure. All right, here's another shawl type project. All right, last week I was about to hear I am working on this little basic design for linked treble and single crochets and little bobble stitches throughout. So I've kind of hit the center and I'm coming back around. So here's kind of the idea of what it's going to be. It's sort of the idea of like the Sophie scarf, just a little bit of a neckerchief kind of thing. But I wanted bobbles. I wanted to be able to feature 2 different yarns. So I am slowly but surely making progress on this. This might be something I could do a tutorial on. Again, should I have the time. But it is taking a little bit of extra time with this just because I am using a smaller hook size. It's a 3.75 millimeter hook, and the yarn I think calls itself a 3-weight, but it really behaves more like a 2. So it does take a little bit of time, but I do like how it's coming along. The yarn that I'm using here is kind of this marled, kind of twisted together of shimmery gold and cream and brown. And then just that limey, ooh, that like, it's almost like a pure chartreuse color, isn't it? That's pretty true to color on the camera, I think. That very yellowy green. I think it's really fun, and I think once it's done, it'll be great as a headscarf, as a little neck warmer, something of that nature. And I would look forward to doing this up in different colors as well. It's really just a matter of doing the math to make sure that the bobbles look intentional, but not too random, if that makes sense. So not perfect, but not crazy either. Hopefully I will get more progress done on that and have that done pretty soon. Okay, here's where I need opinions from y'all. I think I have this one figured out, but this is really my last work in progress right now. This is my Highline sweater, and I'm almost done with the back panel, but I want to know if y'all notice anything here. Can y'all see? Can you see the difference? I certainly can. Of this yarn, I got 2 different dye lots, and I'm realizing that it's not just dye lots, it's also almost thicknesses of the yarn. So this is Alpaca Twist from the most recent Hobby Lobby yarn clearance, and this is the back panel. So I have 1 full skein on one side and then a partial skein here on the other. And I'm a little bit in a conundrum, because to me, that's kind of a noticeable difference. I think I only have maybe 1 more row on the back panel, or actually I think I'm probably done with the back panel, so I'm gonna start the front. But here's what I think I'm gonna do. I think I'm gonna take whatever yarn I have more of, and I'm gonna do the front just solid of that one particular dye lot, and then I'll do the sleeves, each of their own dye lot, and just try to keep the 4 different pieces of this sweater the same, so I don't have this line. The fact that this is going to be in the back, it's not as big of a deal. People aren't going to notice it unless they are very yarny people. But yeah, has that ever happened to you guys where you thought that your dye lots were actually comparable and then maybe they're not, and then things are more noticeable to you than they are to other people? And what do you think of that solution? Making sure that the front is 1 dye lot and then the sleeves can each be their own thing. They don't have to be the same dye lot as the front. They don't even have to be the same dye lot as each other, but just trying to keep each of the pieces of the same dye lot. What do y'all think about that? I know that there's no way to go back and get any more of this since it is on clearance. And truth be told, the dye lots are similar enough that maybe it doesn't make a big difference. Maybe it's just me kind of overthinking it. But y'all let me know what you think. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions, because an extra set of eyes really does make a big difference, I think. All right, the last thing I want to talk about is a library serendipity. Y'all know how I love my library, and it seems that maybe I'm the only one picking up all these crochet books, but there are a lot of good crochet books that I'm finding on the shelves of my local branch, which is phenomenal to me. So I was over there with my kids. They were in a different section where I could keep my eye on them, and I was just casually looking at crochet books on the shelves, and I saw this one, and I thought, I do not actually have a granny square sweater, and I have yarn for a sweater, and I haven't figured out what I'm going to do with that. Hey, you know what? These remind me of the granny go-round sweater that I've seen, or granny go-round jumper that I've seen people do, other YouTubers perhaps, and also on Ravelry. It's super popular, super cute, but it's a paid-for pattern. I wonder if this could be comparable to that. So I started flipping through, and I was thinking, I know the yarn that I have at home. I know I have a sweater quantity of a DK weight yarn. This is that DK weight yarn. This is this navy blue. It is Red Heart Sport 3-ply. They call it a sport weight, but it really is a DK weight. And this is vintage. I definitely won't be able to get any more of this. The color is soft navy. I think it's just going to be gorgeous. So I was looking at this book and I was thinking about it, and sure enough, I think that the sweater in here is going to work. But I realized, oh wait, these are in UK terms. So I went to the back and I was reading about the author, and wouldn't you know it, this same author is the person who designed the granny go-round jumper. So that just made me so happy. So I already have a pattern by that same designer, and I'm pretty sure it's almost the same. I'm really excited for it. So the question is, would it be crazy, while I have one sweater on the go, would it be crazy to go ahead and start another? I know some of y'all have so many works in progress, it doesn't bother you to have that many things on the hook, but for me, it kind of does. So let's see here. One shawl, kind of a smaller shawl, and then 2 sweaters. Is that too much? I don't know, but I think I might just go ahead and go for it. I think I might, just because once I get going on this, it's gonna be pretty intuitive and pretty straightforward. And I bet I can bust this out in no time. The thing with the other sweater, the Highline sweater, is that I do have to go kind of slow, and I do have to be thoughtful about every stitch because the pattern is forcing me to overcome years of muscle memories and quote unquote bad habits in crochet, right? It's making me yarn over in a way that's different than what I normally do, just because of the way that I learned. And I don't ever have a problem with it, but sometimes stitches do require certain yarning overs. You know, you guys know this in amigurumi. If you yarn over or yarn under, you do get a slightly different effect. Same thing with half double crochets in general. That is one stitch where I think it does matter quite a bit. It won't matter in granny stitches, so that's something that maybe I can get going and really make some quick progress of. I think that would be a lot of fun. So that's one big kind of thought process. Maybe I will go ahead and pull the trigger and start on another sweater, even though I have a sweater ongoing. Yeah, y'all, I think that's it for right now. It feels like it's been a lot and also a little, and it's just life, and it's summer, and we are ripping and we're rolling and we're going. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble about my crochet. Thank you for spending some time with me in the comments. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video and all that kind of stuff. I know that I do have some new subscribers. Thank you so much for those of you who have let me know that you found me in other places and come along with me for this kind of YouTube adventure. I certainly do appreciate y'all. There's a lot happening in life. I don't know if it's like this for you guys, but it seems like there's a lot of just, there's some kind of recalibration going on. I don't know if you're experiencing this too, where not bad changes, but just kind of big changes are happening in life in general. And so it's really beautiful that we have something like crochet that kind of anchors us and that can give us joy as we process maybe the big changes in life. So thank you so much for being part of my life. Thank you so much for being part of my crochet world, and that I can share my joy with you. It is such an honor to be part of your life. I really do appreciate y'all. And if I'm not your cup of tea, thank you so very much for listening this long. I really do appreciate you, and I do hope I'll see you again soon. Bye.